Okay, so good morning to everyone. Today we shall be discussing three topics which involves interrogatives, prepositions, and modals. So I shall be discussing them one by one, and I want you to summarize them again when you will be listening to this video recorded discussion. And I want to apologize because I am having a sore throat. So I hope you bear with me because if I will not record right now, so it will be very hard for us to cope again. So the first topic would revolve on interrogatives, and at the end of this discussion, you should be able to. There are three objectives here: recognize the use of interrogatives, form the correct questions with the usage of interrogatives, and appreciate the use of interrogatives in interviews. So as a teacher, there is something that tells about a teacher here. It says, do you know that I ask a lot of questions? So isn't it that if you talk about teacher, or if you think about the term teacher, they always ask questions. And it says here, yes, I do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Since I'm a teacher and I can tell from experience that teaching espouses questioning. So teaching and questioning are two interrelated things, and they always go together. The essence of effective teaching, of course, is asking. Asking questions. Because questions allow us to gain deeper insights and develop more innovative solutions that derive the benefits from them. So what are the benefits? Of course, children learn by asking questions. Students learn by asking questions, because if you do not ask questions, you will never gain answers. And another thing here, it says that I believe it is asking people the right questions instead of telling them what to do that creates success and that pushes people to be successful. So, questions push people to figure out the answers on their own, because if you present questions, the what people will do is to find the right answers. So the philosophy is simple. Asking the right questions gives people the answers they need to move forward in life. We need to start looking at our dreams practically. Simply put, our dreams are the problems we have to learn to solve. So dreams are called dreams for a reason. It is something better than what we have now. To achieve what is better, we have to start finding answers to questions. It is then scientifically proven that we learn about life by asking questions. Children naturally start learning about the world by observing, testing, and asking why. So, if you come across a child or children ages 3 to 6 years old, or those that are first time in school, they always ask questions, sometimes about why, about how. So sometimes we get tired answering their questions. So it is very important to have a knowledge of interrogative construction, because it's not only children ang nangangailangan ng knowledge on how to question. An interrogative construction is actually a grammatical form used to ask a question. Now, there are two kinds of questions. I know you're all familiar with this, the yes-no questions and information questions. So, when we say yes-no questions, of course, they are questions that are answerable by yes or no. Example is, are you a student at Cagayan State University, Lalo? Or have you ever been with COVID-19 positive patient? Or do you know why the Americans are protesting against George Floyd's death? So it's just a matter of dwindling between yes or no. Now, information questions contain specific interrogative words such as who, what, when, why, and how. So we call all these WH words as interrogative word because they are use or they signal the occurrence of a question and cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. Their purpose is to elicit a specific information, just like who. So it is eliciting information about a person, about when did he come to the Philippines, when did he come to the Philippines. So it's eliciting information about date. How did he learn Ilocano? So it is eliciting information about the procedure or the process undertaken. Now, what are interrogatives? In English grammar, an interrogative is a word that introduces a question which cannot be simply answered with yes or no. Interrogatives are sometimes called question words because of their function, or WH words because of their most common initial letters WH, whom, whose, what, where, when, why, and how. The interrogative is normal for many questions. It contains a verb phrase that is followed by a subject. Now, there are two main types of question: those that can be answered by yes or no, and those that have to be answered with a specific piece of information or a sentence such as I don't know. So we have here WH questions. When you want to get a detailed answer, not just yes or no, you must use non-polar question, which allows for many possible answers. Of course, who was that man? What did he say? When did you see? Where is Peter? When did they arrive? Why have you stopped running? So all those responses or all those answers are actually not focusing on yes or no. Now, there are types of interrogative. Actually, there are three. So the first one is the interrogative determiners, which includes what, which, and whose. So, an interrogative determiner is a word that modifies a noun by asking a question. An interrogative determiner are called interrogative adjectives. So, what time is it? So, it's modifying time. Which shoes shall I wear? So, it's trying to determine the exact shoes. Whose bag is this? Now, we proceed to interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns stand alone. They do not modify nouns. This is how they differ from interrogative determiners. So, what is the capital of Peru? Which should I use? Who is that boy? So, whom are you with? And the last one, we have the interrogative adverbs. So, these three, the interrogative determiners, interrogative pronouns, and interrogative adverbs, they differ only in function. And the answer to a question posed with an interrogative adverb will be an adverb or an adverbial phrase. So, why should I believe you? Of course, your answer because something like this and like that. So, your answer is an adverb. Kaya siya tinatawag na interrogative adverbs because it is somewhat expecting an adverbial answer. Now, there are issues on the use or utilization of interrogatives. The first one is do not confuse with whose and whose. So, the first issue is on the use of whose, that is apostrophe S, and whose, that is SE. So, try to give distinction between the two. Whose with an apostrophe S is a contraction. When we say contraction, it's just a shortened term for who is and who has. Like, who's related to this? Who is related to this? So, ginagamit ang whose apostrophe S if the sentence is like this. So, we have here, whose cake is this? Here, whose is an interrogative determiner. So, it's trying to modify the noun cake. Next, whose is this? So, it's also an interrogative pronoun. Next, incorrect. Whose cake is this? Because when you try to expand it, who is cake is this? So, that's wrong already. How about who's this? Apostrophe S, that's correct because when you try to expand it, nagiging who is this? So, always put that in mind. Next, avoid errors with who and whom. So, by the far, the biggest issue with interrogative pronoun is confusing who and whom. You can only use who when it is the subject of the verb. If not the subject of the verb, you should be using whom. So, for example, who saw the play? Who is correct? Who did you sit with? So, it's no longer the subject. So, dito sa sentence na to, who did you sit with? You is the subject. It's no longer the who. So, you better use whom. Whom did you sit with? Because whom is the direct object. Tandaan, ginagamit lang ang who if that who is standing as the or acting as the subject of the sentence. Next, issue number 3. Do not use a question mark after a non-question. A common issue related to interrogatives is writers thinking a non-question is a question and using a question mark. I want to know if it's true. It looks like a question in mind but not in form and function. I wondered if I'll ever see them again. Those are all statements. Those are not question. I want to know if it's true. So you just want to know if it's true. It only becomes a question if you separate the it's true. Is it true? So that only becomes a question if you separate that one. But with the presence of the phrase I want to know, that is a statement and not a question. So those are the 3 issues on interrogatives. Yung whose and whose. Tandaan yung whose na apostrophe S, if you expand that, that becomes who is. Yung yung whom and who naman, who if you are referring to the subject, whom if you are referring to the object. Next, modals, which have been discussed before. So we have analyze, here are your objectives, analyze the proper usage of modals using various meanings, reflect the different abilities they possess, perform tests in relation to job of their choice. So what are modals? Modals are category of auxiliaries. So we have learned this before. They are under the umbrella of auxiliaries because they too act as helping verbs. They help the main verb to express a range of meanings such as possibility, probability, certainty, permission, requests, instructions, suggestions, offers, and invitations, wants and wishes, obligation, as well as necessity. So here is the matrix for the proper usage of modals. Example for can, could, may, and might. You use them for possibility. Example, can you unlock this door for me? This might come in useful. It could have been disastrous accident. When may she get up? How about cannot, can't, must, ought to, should, and will. So they are used to express probability and certainty. Can, could, be, and able to. They are used to express ability. Can, could, and may, permission. Can, could, will, and would. Of course, instruction and request. So examples are here and written. Could, may, might, and shall. So they could also be used for suggestions. Can, could, shall, will, and would to offer invitation. And last one, we have the must not, have to, have got to. Of course, those are used to express obligation and necessity. So, the modals express 2 main types of meaning. Human control over events such as involved in permission, intention, ability, or obligation. Example, you may live now. I could speak Greek when I was young. You must go to bed at once. Next is judgment whether an event was, is, or will likely to happen. So they may be away for the weekend, so it's possible. That could be your mother, so it is possible that it is. It must be past midnight. So these are the modals and their uses. So can, what's the use of can? It's used to express ability to do in the present. I can speak English. So you have the ability to speak English. Permission to do in the present. Can I go to the cinema? It's also used to express request. Can you wait a moment, please? To offer, I can lend you my car tomorrow. Suggestion, can we visit Grandma the weekend? Possibility, it can get very hot in Tugigaraw. Could. So what are the uses of the modal could? Ability to do in the past. I could speak English. That means you are telling your audience or you are telling someone that you could speak English in the past. Next, permission to do in the past. I could go to the cinema. Polite question. Could I go to cinema, please? Polite request. Could you wait a moment, please? Polite offer. I could lend you my car till tomorrow. Polite suggestion. Could we visit Grandma the weekend? And possibility, it could get very hot in Tugigaraw. May. So those are the uses of may, might, must not or may not, need not, ought to. So you just have to read them, summarize them. And of course, we won't forget the shall, should, will, and would. So these are no past forms, and they are not past forms, they refer to the future. And the last one, we have the prepositions. So for the objectives, of course, you have to identify the prepositions, use correct preposition, and construct sentences using appropriate prepositions. Now, what are prepositions? So these are short words that expresses or that express the relationship between two other nearby words. So example is the book about the wizard. About shows the relationship of the book and the wizard. The book by the wizard. By the shows the relationship of the book and the wizard. The book near the wizard. The book behind the wizard. The book under the wizard. So all of this about, by, near, behind, and under shows the relationship between the word book and the wizard. That's why they are called prepositions. So here are the common prepositions: above, about, during, except, with, to, toward, through, beside, beneath, into, of, on, within, without, despite. So all of these have different roles or functions in giving relationship to words that can be found in a sentence. So what's the role of a preposition? Preposition introduce a prepositional phrase. So when you say a prepositional phrase, it's always introduced by a preposition and are followed by prepositional complement. The preposition links complement to some other expression. So if it links the complement to the rest of the sentence or clause, the prepositional phrase may be placed in any various position. We had an argument in the supermarket. In the supermarket is your prepositional phrase. It is introduced by the preposition in. And of course, in the supermarket is the whole prepositional phrase. All the members of the team, in my view, contributed equally to the victory. So to the victory, and then in my view. By that time is also considered a prepositional phrase. It is introduced by the preposition by. Next, a preposition precedes a noun or a pronoun to show the noun's relationship to another word in a sentence. Example is, it is a container for butter. So it precedes a noun. There is, we have here the butter and the container. The eagle soared above the clouds. The clouds. And then the eagle. He is the president of the Philippine Republic. Philippine Republic and the president. So those are the two nouns being related by a preposition. Now we have what we call object of preposition. It is the word that follows a preposition, and that's why it's called as the object of preposition. So if there's a preposition, there will always be an object of preposition because a preposition cannot exist by itself. So hindi mo siya matatawag na preposition if it's standing alone because its function could vary. So example is with pride. So yung preposition na ginamit doon is yung with. Yung kanyang katabi, tinatawag natin na object of preposition. Pero, hindi naman always na magkatabi yung object of preposition and preposition. Sometimes, there are modifiers within or between them. Example, with utmost pride. So, ang yung preposition is still with, and there's a modifier there, is still your object of preposition is pride. And an object of preposition is always a noun or a pronoun. Ma'am, bakit hindi naman yung atmos yung object of preposition? That is not a noun. That is a modifier. That is an absolute adjective. Next, we move on to prepositional phrase. It's made up of preposition and the object of preposition or a noun phrase. So, prepositional phrases are very common. So, they function as either adjectives or adverbs. So, examples here. It is a message from Mark. From Mark is a prepositional phrase. It's a composition of the preposition Mark, preposition from, and the object of preposition Mark. And then Mark is trapped on the island. On the island is a prepositional phrase. On is your preposition. Da is your determiner. Island is your object of preposition. So another example, I cook with wine. With wine is your prepositional phrase. Ang preposition dyan ay yung with, and yung wine is your object of preposition. Behind every great man. Behind is your preposition. Every is a modifier. Great is also a modifier. And then man is your object of preposition. Malalaman mo na object of preposition yan if it's written after a preposition, and another thing if it's a noun or a pronoun. Next, there are common issues involving prepositions. First, try to avoid ending a sentence in a preposition because if a sentence ends in a preposition, it could be an incomplete sentence or it could be considered a fragment. Next, do not use the wrong case after preposition. So, every preposition has its own specific use. So, it's present from my wife. It's a present from my wife and I. So, it should be between you and I. So, it should be between you and me. Because, I can never be an object. Is only used if it's the subject. Next, do not confuse prepositions with other words. So, writing the verb to instead of the preposition to. To na yung double O, that is an adverb. And to is a preposition. Too much. So, anong tamang gagamitin doon? It should be an adverb. It should not be a preposition. So, preposition past, that is P-A-S-T, which means beyond, and instead of past tense of past. So, ang preposition dun, hindi yung past, ha. If you see the word past, it could be pinasa or it's a past tense of past. Next is keep your writing succinct. So, some phrasal verbs have prepositions that do not add anything. When you encounter one of these, delete the prepositions to improve succinctness. So, here is an example. I cannot face up to the consequences. I cannot face the consequences. So, sometimes there are statements that do not need prepositions in order for them to express or convey the ideas in a sharper way. So those are the last three topics under grammatical accuracy. So if you have questions, just post them in our GC. And of course, always expect for activities to be uploaded in our lens. You don't need to be informed anymore. Just have the initiative. Just voluntarily visit our lens, because after every uploaded discussion, there is a corresponding activity. Thank you so much. Good day and God bless.